I'm going to start the recording and then I'm going to stop sharing. You should be able to share from there.
There you go. Hello, everybody. Thanks for being with us. You are on the Primetime Notaries webinar. This is where notaries of a certain age gather to talk about the challenges of being an older signing agent. Let me see, hang on just a second. I got to check something out here. There you go. Now I can see y'all. Where we talk about the challenges of being an older signing agent. We exchange information, tips and tricks. And as a bonus, we include general notary information. So today is Wednesday, January 20th, and this is a once a month event that is completely free. But as a reminder, you do need to register for every session that we put on that you want to attend. So try to keep your mics muted when you're not actively engaged in speaking, just to kind of minimize the background noise. If you've got a video camera, turn it on. We like to see your faces. We like to see who we're talking to, right, Carol? Yeah, okay. She's being a good participant. She's staying muted.
Yeah, sorry, I muted myself. I'm gone again.
One quick announcement. Primetime Notaries now has a website that you can access. It's primetimenotaries.com. It's brand new, so don't be too harsh on the content in the next couple of weeks till we get it kind of bolstered up for you. We also have an email address. It's contact@primetimenotaries.com. So if you have questions or content that you want us to address in one of the webinars, send an email to us and we'll get that put on the schedule for you. And then today we have a special guest speaker that's going to be with us. And we also have a few giveaways that we're going to do at the end of the webinar. So stay tuned. My name is Beth Hathoot. I've been a notary since 1994 and a signing agent since 2001. I worked for a local title company as a processor and a closer for a few years before stepping off that corporate moving sidewalk and starting my own signing service. That dissolved when the market crashed in 08 and 09. Since then, I've just been concentrating on building and filling my own schedule and trying to assist other notaries when possible. I'm joined by Miss Carol Ray, Mr. Ronnie Mickle, and Miss Phyllis Traylor. So I want to start off with Phyllis. Hi, Phyllis. I want to start off with Phyllis and just have Phyllis introduce herself, and so that you'll know who she is and what her background is.
Thank you, Beth. My name is Phyllis Traylor. I'm located in Texas. I've been a Texas notary for over 10 years. I am the owner of my San Antonio Mobile Notary, the Texas Notary Public Professional Training Academy, and the founder of the Texas Notary Patron Learning Community. I also have 2 Facebook groups if you're interested. If you're a Texas notary, we have the Texas Notary Training Academy Facebook group, and we have Texas Online Notaries. All of our training is Texas state specific, so we cater to Texas notaries. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Phyllis. Mr. Ronnie Mickle, can you chime in and tell us and some of your background? Right,
I'm here. I'm trying to start the video and I clicked it on mute. So my name is Ronnie Mickle and I am out of Arizona. I own Unlimited Ink Notary. It's a signing agency. We do signings nationwide. And I also own NotaryStars.com, which is a directory and a continuing education course. We do gear our education toward notaries nationwide, not just from Arizona specific documents. We also have a Facebook group. It's Notary Stars. You don't have to be a member of Notary Stars to join. My belief is, since I was a little notary baby, I've been doing this for a little over a decade. Since I was a little notary baby, I've always noticed that all of these forms that we pay into or we give our money to, if we ask a question, they bite our head off. So one of the things about the community that I've built is that we have zero tolerance for biting heads off. New notary questions are just as important as experienced notary questions. And I was actually very happy to acquire Ms. Hathout this year to be our Facebook moderator. She's also teaching courses on Notary Stars. We teach 4 days a week live and have one general mentorship. And our notaries can call us and ask questions in real time. So we take our experiences from owning a signing agency. We do around 2,500 files a month nationwide. Most of them are in Arizona or surrounding states. But we take that experience from Unlimited Ink and we bring it to Notary Stars so that we can help notaries be prepared when we are able to work with them. And I am very proud to be a part of this group. I think sometimes that the older generation of notaries, there's two things that I see. Number one, they're overlooked. And number two, they sometimes lack the confidence because they may be going through a career change, or they see all of the things now, these, make 6 figures and all of that stuff, and they might feel that there's not a place for them. But actually, and I know Miss Carol has a guest on that's going to talk about this in the future, but I actually have the opposite view. I have a lot of trust for the older generation of notaries, whether they've been doing it a long time or not. Most of the people who make it to retirement age got to retirement because they were able to do their job and do it well, and they usually care about what they're doing. So I have a lot more placed in my heart for someone that's of a certain age starting out in this career than someone who's like 18 starting out in this career, because most people of a certain age don't want to make mistakes and they take things more seriously. So I'm very honored to be here, and I'm going to pass it back to Miss Beth so everybody can continue on with their introductions. I talk too much, so try not to call on me very much because I'll give you more information.
Okay, so first off, I'm noticing in the participant listing that there's like 6 or 7 Carol Rays in there and 6 or 7 Phyllis Traylors. So that tells me that you've shared your login IDs. So you guys, if you would right click on to the right of your name and in the participant file, whichever one you think you are, because it's going to say Carol Ray or Phyllis Traylor, and then rename yourself so we know that you're not Carol or Phyllis. That way, if you have a question, we can call on you, okay? So see if you can figure out which one you are and rename yourself to your actual name, and so we'll know who you are. So Miss Carol, give us your speech on who you are and what you do.
Well, my name is Carol Ray, and I am a retired escrow officer of many years and an escrow manager of 2 different companies. In 2009, I started Notary to Pro because I realized that there was no decent training and people were making a lot of mistakes. And I felt qualified at that time to teach notary signing agents, which I did for 14 years. I've been in business now for over 11 years. We have thousands and thousands of graduates all over the nation. And I love what I do. We have very intense training, very detailed. And I love the fact that a few years ago, we started seeing our clients, our customers, whatever you want to call them, students, go from the ages of like early 20s and 30s into the more mature students in their late 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we love it. We're watching this industry change. We're making an impact. My goal was to raise the bar in this industry because there was becoming a very heavy disrespect for loan signing agents. They weren't trained properly and they were making a lot of mistakes. So I'm really happy to see this group, and I'm so happy to be working close with Phyllis Traylor. She's one of my graduates. She's just taken off like a rocket and made a big impact in the industry. And Beth and Ronnie are just wonderful in helping to put all of this together. So I welcome everybody that's here.
Thank you, Miss Carol. You're our matriarch, our rock. Thank you for being here. Okay, y'all, we're going to move right into my little piece. This is just a little 5-minute notary hack. Some of these notary hacks are for you, and some of them are for your borrowers or your signers at the table. And this one's really going to be for the ones at the table. So the first one I want to bring to your attention, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see this really fat pen? These are awesome for older people. They always want a fatter pen to work with. People who have Parkinson's or a little bit of a tic, a shake, can find a lot of comfort in using a larger pen. If you carry 1 or 2 of these in your bag and you find that someone's struggling to sign, if you pull this out and just let them practice writing with this for a little bit, they're going to find out that they really like it. You'll end up losing it, so make sure you have a couple of them. They'll want to keep it. This will help your signings go a lot faster. It'll make your signers a little more comfortable with signing as well. So that's my first hack. And guys, you can get those on Amazon, okay? My second hack is for those who have a little bit of visual impairment where they don't see very well. Sometimes you might even be signing a blind signer. These little signature guides are a godsend for them too. These are just little plastic squares, and they're usually in red or yellow. And I usually carry both because depending on what the visual defect might be, depends on what they can see. This is where you just line this up on the signature line and they just sign their name in a straight line rather than ending up signing on an angle. I'm sure some of you have been doing this for a while, have seen that. If they can't see too well or they are blind, they're going to be writing kind of all over your paper. So these help really well to assist with that. And it helps your signing go a lot quicker. My last hack for you today, and I got to get this on my tablet here. This I like to use for people who are visually impaired. This little guy, you're going to see it backwards, but this little guy transcribes everything you say so that if they are deaf, they can read this. And you don't have to try and keep writing notes back and forth. You can still give a brief description of the document and they can just read it, shake their head yes, and sign the paper. So this is real valuable for some of your signings. I was informed of a deaf couple that I was signing probably sometime last year. And I had to come up with a way to communicate with them right at the front door when I went to their front door. So I had this set up. I was holding my tablet in front of me. When they opened the door, I talked like normal. Hi, or good afternoon, good morning. My name is Beth. I'm your notary. And they were just thrilled. So that one works really, really well. All righty. We're going to go on to our main topics now. And hey, guys, if you have any questions, raise your hand. And then we'll take a break after we give you a topic and answer any questions. Kind of keep them related to the topic we just discussed. That way we can kind of move this through efficiently, I guess. So Miss Carol Ray, you are up first. You have a topic that you want to discuss on non-foreign status affidavit.
Yes, thank you, Beth. I did want to bring up a couple of things that I get calls about quite frequently from my students, and I just wanted everybody to be aware, anyone who's working now, of a form called a non-foreign status, and this is done when you have a purchase, either working with not with the buyers, but with the sellers. They oftentimes have a form in there called a non-foreign status, And what that is back in, I believe it was in the 80s or 90s, when the Chinese and the Japanese were coming to the US, purchasing a lot of property, and then paying, once it was valuable, they would sell it off and leave the country and take the money with them. And the IRS said, no more, we're not going to allow you to do that. So now, from that point forward, they've required all title company and escrow companies to withhold 10% of the sales price of those properties that were purchased and being resold by foreigners, people who are not US citizens, so that they could determine the amount of taxes that they should be paying on it. And when you get to that form, if you're handling a seller's package, you want to be sure and address that and have them tell whether or not they were US citizens or if they're from a foreign country. And that's what it is. Just explain to them that if they're not, don't have US citizenship, they're going to have 10% of their purchase price withheld in escrow. So that's the first thing, and then I'll talk about something else a little bit later.
Thank you very much, Ms. Carroll. Any questions on that non-foreign status affidavit, guys? I don't see any hands. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to move on to Ms. Phyllis. Ms. Phyllis is going to talk to us about over 50 computing skills and the RON platforms.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Well, in order for us to do this, especially do the loan signings, you do have to have some at least basic computer skills. And so what I did was I just did a quick Google search, and there are some free basic computer training courses out there. And if you have very limited computer skills, I would highly suggest that you look at taking, investing in some additional computer training. And I'm going to put a link in the chat area where there offers some free computer courses. Okay, and also I used to teach computer applications when I was teaching at the college. And one thing I noticed that a lot of people that had limited computer skills also didn't know how to type. So there's a lot of free typing programs out there too, if you have problems with typing. Okay, and I will put a link for the free typing software in the chat area also. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about remote online notarization. Now keep in mind with remote online notarizations, it's just like general notary work. It's going to differ from state to state. I know I was talking to Carol the other day, and she was telling me that a lot of her students have called her and talked about how expensive it was to do the online notarizations and how they weren't able to make money doing the online notarizations. So I'm not familiar with all the states, just with Texas. And the platforms are expensive, but we have been able to make money doing online notarizations in Texas. We don't have that many restrictions as some of the other states. So one of the platforms that I always recommend to my notaries who want to start off with the online notarization, I encourage them to sign up with Notarize. And the reason why I do that is because with Notarize, there's no cost for them to sign up. And Notarize actually provides the clients for them and will pay them every time they do a notarization. And they will also train them on the platform. So it's just a good way to get familiar with doing online notarization. There's no cost to the notary at all. Now, the benefits of using Notarize is you learn how to complete online notarizations. There's no upfront costs, no monthly fees, and no transaction fees. And the training is free. Now, the cons with using Notarize is that they're not going to pay you a whole lot to do a notarization on their platform because they're providing the client for you. So I believe they pay like $5 per notarization. But, you know, I have a couple of notaries who have become really good at completing these notarizations on Notarize and are doing really well and are happy with the money that they're making on there. Now, a couple of other online bronze platforms that I know about that are out there are Signex and Doc Verify. Now, with both of those platforms, there is a initial setup cost, and it can be a little bit expensive. And also there are additional transaction costs. So every time you do a notarization, you have a transaction cost associated with using those two platforms. So depending on what type of notarizations you're doing, how many you're doing for one particular signer or different signers, those fees, what you're paying to use the platform, can really add up. So there are a couple of newer platforms out there that don't have the large initial setup fees, but I'm not sure if they are available to all states that offer RON. I know they are available in Texas. And the first one I want to talk about is One Notary. Now that platform doesn't have from what I understand, there's no monthly fee and there's no initial setup fee. But you do, what they do is the client will pay One Notary, and then I believe One Notary will pay the notary from the fee paid from the client. And the notary has to bring their own client. So One Notary is not going to provide any clients for you. You're going to have to be able to bring your clients to One Notary to use that platform. But from what I understand, there's no initial setup fee and there's no monthly setup fee. So you do have an opportunity to make some money on this platform if it's offered in your state. Like I said, I know it's offered in Texas. Another platform that has very low entry level is called Live Notary. Now, One Notary and Live Notary are fairly new platforms, so they still have some, kinks they're trying to work through. Right now, I think you can only do general notary work on both of these platforms, but they are working on the ability for you to do loan closings on these platforms also. And from what I understand, both of them, you're going to have to provide your own clients. Now with Live Notary, they did have two plans. They have a free plan and they have a monthly plan with a setup fee. Now their monthly plan with the setup fee, they do advertise that one is a way for them to provide you clients. So I would check them out to see what they have to offer. And one other platform that I have used a lot, which I like, and there's no large setup cost, is called Secure Signing. Now, secure signing and these platforms are all-in-one platforms, meaning they have everything that you need to do your online notarization. The only thing about secure signing is at this time, they are based overseas. So they did say they were getting ready to open up an office in the United States. But right now they are in, I believe, I want to say New Zealand. So you don't get that, real time, if you have a question or a problem you run into, you don't get that real time response that you might get from some of the other platforms. But the people that I've worked with on secure signing, very easy to work with, and very responsive when they do respond to any questions I have for help or assistance. And of course, another option you have is just kind of doing what I did in the beginning, where I just kind of put a bunch of softwares together and kind of created my own hodgepodge platform. And I get so many questions about that. But even doing it in that manner, you still need some type of electronic signing platform. So it's not really creating your own platform, but it's just putting a bunch of softwares together. So what I've done in the past is I've used a e-signing platform called eSign Genie. It's called eSign Genie. Now, it doesn't have everything that the other online platforms have. So it doesn't have video capabilities. So I had to go out and use Zoom to actually do my video recording of the signing. It doesn't have an electronic, eSign Genie doesn't have an electronic journal. So I had to create an electronic journal. And I did that using Airtable. And since eSign Genie doesn't have video capability, it also didn't have the capability to store the videos. So I used Vimeo to do that. So I just put a bunch of softwares together. And it also didn't have the ID scan and KBA capabilities. So I was able to sign up with electronic verification systems and do my KBAs and ID scanning through that company.
So Phyllis, you have a couple of questions in the chat window. One from Melinda Smith, and she just wants to know if you can sign up for 2 different platforms at the same time.
In Texas, we can sign up for as many platforms as we want to. That's the way we can do it in Texas now. If you're not in Texas, I really can't tell you what you can and can't do. You would have to check with your Secretary of State to see what you can do. But in Texas, we have that flexibility. And so most of, at least the ones that are in my Patreon community, most of my patrons are signed up with more than one platform, because some platforms are more cost effective to do general notary work, and other platforms are more cost effective to do loan closings. So you really have to take a look, signing up with a platform, you really need to take a look at what you're being charged for, how much you can charge. You just don't want to jump out there and start, signing up for the first one that comes along, because you can wind up just paying more than what you're making. And we're all in this to make money.
Yeah, Arizona is kind of limited. We can have one platform for in-person electronic notarizations, and that's not even general notary work online. That's taking your tablet with electronic documents and sitting in the same room with the signer. And then we can only have one RON platform. So if we're signed up with multiple title companies or signing services and they use a particular platform, if it's not the one you're signed up with, we're kind of out in the weeds on that one. So, and you have Angie Lios Notary. She says in the chat that she has a question. So do we want to take a minute and let her unmute and ask you?
Go ahead. That's fine with me.
Well, I saw another video that talked about these platforms and the cost. I'm moving to Virginia in a few months, which is a RON state, as you probably know. And
One first. One of the first.
Yeah, the first one. But I'm not seeing the profit in it. Like it's like $5. We chart, like I don't understand with all the expenses how being a raw notary is like profitable.
It just depends on, it depends on your state and the platform you're going to use. It would take me a while to actually go into the details as to how you can make money, but believe me, in Texas, you can make money doing RON, because like I said, we're not limited to the number of platforms that we use. Now we are limited to how much we can charge. We can only charge $31 per notarization. But if you're on a platform that's not charging you a whole lot, then you can still make money doing that. But when you're doing the loan closings, we're not limited to how much we can charge doing a loan closing. So, it's just like doing a mobile notary loan closing. You decide how much you're going to charge for that mobile notary loan closing. You're going to do the same thing with your RON in Texas. I'm talking in Texas. I can't speak for the other states.
Phyllis, you have another question from Chawanza Nash. She wants you to repeat what you use to verify the client ID and how this verification process is performed.
So the verification process, what I use is called electronic verification systems. Somebody typed it in for me. Good.
Yeah.
It's called EVS. And the signer's ID card, what happens is I will log into electronic verification systems, and I will type in the signer's cell phone number. That EVS is going to send the signer's cell phone a text, and the text is going to have a link. And when the signer clicks on that link on their cell phone, they are going to be instructed to take a picture of the front and the back of their driver's license and then upload it. Now, once they upload it, it's going to be uploaded to EVS. And then EVS will scan that ID. And from the scan of that ID, it will generate 5 knowledge-based authentication questions, because in Texas, we have to ask at least 5 KBAs with multiple choice answers. And then the signer, so what I do then is once it shows up on my screen that the signer has taken the pictures and uploaded them, and the KBAs have been generated, then I share my screen with the signer. I'm not recording this part. I share my screen with the signer so they'll be able to answer the KBAs. And if they have to get at least 4 out of 5 correct, and if they pass, then we can go ahead and move on to notarizing their signature on their documents. Did that answer your question?
Yep, she said, got it, Phyllis, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so Ronnie, quick question for you. Are you hanging out there?
Yes, ma'am. I'm learning a lot.
We have a question in the chat that is asking if you're going to download and save the chat somewhere after the call.
So I don't believe Zoom allows me to download and save the chat, but I do believe, and if somebody knows something different, I am recording the meeting, but any questions that we bring up are recorded on the meeting. I'll have to look and see if the chat is actually salvageable. I've never actually been asked that. I think it shows it with the replay anyway, but the actual chat, I'll have to look and see that.
Okay. Yeah, somebody's saying that the chat is a separate file, and I think I remember that they just made this available to do that maybe a few months ago. So it might be something new we can check out and see how to do that. All righty, so Mr. Roger Rill, if you would get ready and unmute your microphone, Carol Ray, unmute your microphone because I would like for you to introduce our guest speaker.
Yeah, I'm very proud to. Roger Real and I go back a long time, and I have so much respect for him. He's actually become a friend of mine. He has so much knowledge. He's the creator of the Ohio Society of Notaries. He's extremely knowledgeable in this industry. And he takes my students who are from Ohio and offers free mentoring for them specific to Ohio. So it's with pride that I introduce Mr. Roger Real.
Thanks, Carol. Good to hear from you and see you guys. I see a lot of familiar names on here from the notary boards. A particular shout out to my good friend and colleague, Mark Aronson, my cohort from the Pennsylvania Association of Notaries next door. We go back a ways as well. I've been around for 43 years as an Ohio notary, Navy veteran, graduate of Ohio State, and founder of the Ohio Society of Notaries, which is the professional association for notaries in Ohio. We are the resource for Ohio notary information for Ohio notaries, and we are available day or night, 7 days a week for questions. My claim to fame is basically having rewritten Ohio's notary laws that were 50 years old, and we're not into the 21st century mode. So I went through, rewrote the whole thing, got it through the legislature, and for that, it was recognized with the NNA as one of their Notary of the Year special honorees, which was a nice honor. I will tell you, though, if you're not familiar with the legislative process, that laws are kind of like sausages. You really don't want to know how they're made. But going on to the point at hand here, I was asked to talk a little bit about being a senior notary signing agent. Of my 43 years as a notary, about 21 of those has been as a signing agent, and not a whole lot I haven't seen over the years. And I think, I don't know, 14 or 15,000 signings over the years. What I found, though, is that when folks are signing one of the biggest transactions of their lives, it's really essential to have a comfort level with the stranger that's in their home, you, handling all their paperwork. And I found that a little bit of gray hair can be advantageous when first meeting the borrowers. It conveys an impression of experience and respect, which equals credibility. And it's an important thing when you're sitting down with particularly borrowers of your peer group who may be 50, 60, 70, or even older. They have a certain expectation. With older borrowers, you certainly better be on time. They will expect you to be patient. They'll expect you to be respectful. And even then with younger borrowers, you may be doing someone who's 50 years younger than you, who has a completely different value system. So having that credibility, having that comfort level is really essential. And you can help them be comfortable by first and foremost being human. I hear these horror stories on some of the notary boards about how people have trouble because they try to attack a signing by like reading a script. I mean, you treat these people like you want to be treated if it was your signing. And that involves being friendly, courteous. Don't act like a robot. Show your people skills, smile. Try and find some common ground at the outset. And when you walk in the door, compliment them on their garden. Perhaps they have a sports banner hanging from their porch that they're a particular sports team that maybe you both follow and they had a bad day and you want to comment on that or something. Perhaps you're both veterans. That goes a long way with most people, and particularly older folks who are in the service at the same time you were if you're a veteran. But there's all kinds of ways to establish that, and just have a little common ground. Don't just walk in and start talking about their loan. Just be friendly, be human, be a person. It brings the level of credibility that the senior affords will help your signers relax and get through your signing in a more timely manner. One suggestion I always offer is to get the money documents out of the way first. Surprises with the CD at the table are the leading cause of signings blowing up at the table. When you make a confirmation call, I always say, hey, you have either such and such balance due or you're getting money back. Does that sound right to you? And if it doesn't, you talk to your loan officer before we come out. It saves you a lot of grief at the table. You'd rather them be surprised now over the phone during your confirmation call than later when it can blow up the table and you've wasted a trip. I think that a lot of us who have been around for a while in the industry, we've seen a lot of changes over the years in documents and delivery. You know, when I first started, everything was overnighted 95% of the time, and good pay was $50. We thought that was pretty cool at the time. Things have markedly changed. We have a lot more people. We have a lot more new folks. And as a senior, for want of a better word, older signing agent, I think we can do a lot to mentor the younger folks, which I try to do on the notary boards as much as I can. And in my own state, as I say, we field hundreds of questions every week about all kinds of notary issues and questions and procedures and that sort of thing. But if being a senior signer has a lot of advantages that I think carry over to the success that we have in the business by being able to convey to the signers that, you know, we're here to help you. We're not here to sell you anything. We're here to get this done for you. We realize it's one of the biggest transactions of your life, and we want to make sure it's a smooth sailing process. So I think if you can establish a little credibility from the get-go and sit down and be comfortable like you're having a conversation, things will go much smoother and you have a pretty easy signing. So, I mean, there's always going to be a few hurdles here and there with something not right or whatever that you may have to call their LO for. But in the main, most of the time you can get it done fairly quickly. Like I said, get the money stuff out first. Once they see that their numbers are okay, they tend to relax, and everything else is, as we all know, let's keep the lawyers employed. So that's just my 2 cents worth, and I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Well, Roger, this is Carol, and I appreciate everything that you said.
Oh, you're muted, Carol.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just wanted to thank you, Roger. You said some very valuable things, and I appreciate it. And one of the most important things that I have learned and passed on to my students is that the best thing they can do for their signing from the moment they walk into the door is just to be themselves. I've encountered thousands of students who are just crazy nervous before their first ones. And when I tell them, look, just be yourself. That's all you have to be. You don't have to pretend to be anybody that you're not. And you can hear the breath just go, ah, I'm good, I'm okay. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And I'm muted.
I have a question for you, Roger, and it's kind of tags on with the question that's in the chat window as well. How do you feel about the RON movement as it pertains to an older notary?
Well, I think a lot of older notaries, may not be as techie, if you will. Now, again, my friend Mark is an expert in this area, and you have to kind of weigh what you're putting into it for what you're getting out of it. I think someone mentioned you don't get paid very much for what we put into it. Here in Ohio, to become a RON notary, you have to take a $250 class to be approved by the Secretary of State, and of course the test that goes with that. And then you can move on to getting a program or a platform. And from what we hear from our members, there's just a lot of hesitation. I mean, a lot of people jumped on the bandwagon during COVID, especially attorneys. They say, hey, this is cool. We don't have to meet with our clients in person. We can do everything. And then they found out, well, geez, this is a little more expensive than I thought it was going to be when we weighed into the costs and what the return was. So it's kind of up in the air still. The jury is still out. It's only been in the law here for about a little over a year and a half. So we're still getting a lot of feedback, but in the main, it has been largely like, what's all the hubbub about,
Okay. One other question for you. You've been a notary for how long?
43 years.
And a signing agent for those 43
About
years?
half of that, yeah, about 21 of those years.
So as you're getting older, what is your biggest struggle to maintain your schedule as you get older?
You know, I have fun. I mean, I do this because it's fun. People say, when are you going to retire? And I say, I can do this till I'm 90. You know, it's all about the people for me. You have to, and as a notary, you know, our whole point has been public service for 2,000 years. So this is an extension of this. And, you know, I see on the notary boards the people jumping into being signing agents. They think, well, I can make all this money quickly and da-da-da-da. And we all know that that's not the case. It's something that has to be built up. It's something that has to be earned. You're not going to be making six figures out the get-go. It's, I think it's the opportunity to provide a service to people that's very important. Their loan is going nowhere without our seal. And it's a way to help people, and not just with loan signings, but just pretty much anything notarial. I do a ton of general notary work too, and it's just very rewarding, personally as well as financially, to be involved with people and help them on a day-to-day basis. When they say to you, wow, you really saved my life by getting this done for me, or a lot of us who are mobile notaries do well on people's procrastination. Oh no, I just realized I had to have this docket for my kid's driver's test in the morning or at 10 o'clock at night, you know. That happens a lot. So it's fun. I mean, it's fun because I don't need to be motivated. I do it because I enjoy it, and I enjoy people, and I know I'm helping them. And I think we all probably share that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Anybody have any other questions for Roger? Anything they want to ask him? Going once? Going twice?
Well, just anybody that on here is from Ohio, feel free to give me a call, or our website is just Google Ohio Notaries and you'll find us. Anytime you got a question, like I say, we answer the phone day or night, 7 days a week.
Thank you, Roger. We appreciate it.
Pleasure being with you guys.
Next topic is going to be given by Mr. Ronnie Mickle. He's going to give us some quick information on split signings and a non-borrowing spouse. Go ahead, Mr. Mickle.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I'm still wearing my mask. I'm hijacking the meeting just to remind people, whether you believe in coronavirus or not, we are still in a pandemic, and we are fortunate enough now, if you are of a certain age, you may be able to get a vaccine. Not telling you to take a drug that you may or may not want. Check with your health provider and all of those things, but I am reminding you that no matter what you believe right now, if you are going out, a mask is your safety, whether you believe in it or not. And I bought this mask specifically to do this tonight. It got here today. I didn't think I was going to be able to wear it. And that's why I've had my camera off all night, because I wanted to pop up with my little monkey face, because I always tell people, honestly, a monkey can do my job, but I care about my job. And so over time, I don't just say a monkey can do my job, but a monkey who really cares can do my job. And I love that he's got a little smiling face. Before I move on, I also want to say hello to Roger. I've heard a lot about you over the last week. We have these little meetings where we talk to Miss Carol about what we're going to talk about. First time meeting you tonight, and I really want to go back to the first thing you said. You gave a lot of great advice. I wrote down some notes myself, but one of the things is the gray comment. Everybody will know my beard over the years has clippered down, and the reason that I clipper this beard down is because it's getting grayer and grayer and grayer. And I used to think my beard, and I love what he said, because this is all about confidence, and I'm getting older. I may not be of that certain age yet, but I'm getting there every day, closer and closer. And my beard is just over time, just turning gray on one side and gray in a patch here. And I've gotten embarrassed, but I used to wear my beard so I could show people that I wasn't 18. And now I'm in another transition in life, like going through older age puberty. I'm turning gray, and I love that comment, because I feel like I should grow my beard out tomorrow and remind people, hey, I do have some years on this planet. I love the advice about, just be yourself and be a person. I think that's probably one of the things that I try to tell people, but it was just point blank. So thank you for bringing that to the conversation tonight. And I know everybody else will also take that experience with them, because everybody who logged into this meeting that's here tonight wants to do better. Everybody that's here is trying to do better in their career. So I appreciate you being here with us tonight. It means a lot to have, someone here.
I would appreciate that. I greatly appreciate that. And I would just add that, folks of the older generation were raised with a value system to be a little more cautious. That way they might read a little bit more. They just might be a little more trepidatious about exactly what they're signing. So you just have to kind of take that with a grain of salt, because, hey, for all intents and purposes, that's you. So you kind of know where they're coming from. They made it through the 60s just like the rest of us. So we have that value system of all that carries with it. So they might be a little bit more slow or a little bit more impatient or patient, but go with the flow.
Awesome. Okay, guys, I'm going to share my screen right now. One of the reasons that I want to bring this up, this to me has to do with all notaries, but I really want to talk about it with notaries of a certain age as well. It's something that I focus on at Notary Stars, because I feel that, and I think I shared the wrong screen, so let me make sure I share the right one. I'm going to move this over. It's something that I focus on because one of the things that I feel like signing agents make mistakes on the most is when the signing isn't like our typical signing. We always expect one borrower or two borrowers. But sometimes one borrower is a borrower, one's a non-borrowing spouse, and sometimes those signers are in two different places. And so tonight I want to talk about split signings, because it's something as Unlimited Inc., when we see a split signing, we really try to tell the notary, and never fails every month. This is one of our biggest issues, and it really becomes a big problem. So I'm going to start here. I've shared a mock statute warranty deed that we have on the screen here, and I'm going to go straight into the signature lines. When you're the first notary, and I've done this in different colors, I tried to do red and green, but it wound up becoming red and blue. So if it looks a little kid crayonish, I'm sorry, but I was doing this while everyone else was talking. I thought I had it on my computer and it wasn't on this one, so I'm doing it. I literally just made this while everyone's talking. When you're the first signer and notary, the signer signs the document, and then you notarize for the person who signed the document. If it's pre-printed for you, then you must put a line through the signer's name that's not appearing before you and initial it to take them out of the notarial block. If it's just a notarial block with a blank line, you need to write in that person's name. You do not line through the signature line of the first signer. I have notaries all over the country who tell me, well, they're not appearing before me, so I have to. But most lenders in all states, if this is a statute warranty deed, so it came from a seller's file, so it would probably be okay. We could probably get it past recording because they could do a little stamp saying sign and counterpart. But on lender documents, you cannot line through the signature lines. The lenders require the signer to sign the same set of documents, even if signed at a different time. So we have the first signer who signed, and I did this all in red, so you'll see that this is the first signer and the first notarization that took place. I just want to make a reminder, you don't have to circle the pronouns, but when I do a split signing, I kind of do that just to clarify, hey, I signed the guy or I signed the lady. We're trying to get away from circling and doing all those things if your notarizations come with those, and I've even taught to do that, but you don't have to. I still do it if it's appropriate. You want to make sure you fill out your entire notarization block. And then the next signer is going to sign. So Jane's going to sign her document. And the next notary, the second notary, is going to attach a certificate to that. So you have to know, is it a jurat or is it an acknowledgement? We know that this is an acknowledgement because it says acknowledged before me. We see that word acknowledged. If it was a jurat, it would say sworn and subscribed before me. And then we attach our notarial certificate. Now, I see notaries all the time on split signings who don't fill out this optional information here, or they don't print certificates with the optional information, which says what it's attached to, how many people, what date it was signed with me, how many number of pages were there. And I always have it says either how many pages plus the acknowledgement plus the jurat, and then who else signed the document. And I usually just make a note saying sign separately. Notaries all the time fight me on this. They're like, oh, I filled out an acknowledgement, I did my part. The problem is that if you send this acknowledgement back just like this, with nothing at the bottom of what it's attached to, any title officer or loan officer who has your certificate in your hand that the signer might have signed that needed to be notarized can attach it to it. Especially if you forgot the name that goes in the block, they can now use that for anything, saying that you notarized it. Now, we'd like to think that title and lending are all our friends, but they're not. We are the third party in their transaction. We are the party that decides, is the signer who they say they are? We are the party that says, was the person coherent? We are their eyes and ears. We are a lot of help to them, but they are still not our friends. We have a job that the entire state puts into us to say, hey, we're going to do things the right way. Now, your state may say it's fine, but it's not fine. This can come back to haunt you in so many ways. So make sure you fill out that optional information that goes along with a certificate. I wanted to bring this up tonight because amongst all generations of notaries, it is one of the biggest mistakes that we see. It is one of the top signing agent mistakes when you're the first notary and the second notary. And right now, during the pandemic, there's a lot of people who are not able to travel. They have to sign in different places. I've personally seen more split signings this year than the last 10 years of Unlimited Ink, because one party might be in one state, one might be in the other. Travel's not that easy right now. They can't drive to see each other, can't fly to see each other, and they just don't want to. So I wanted to bring this particular topic up tonight about signing and making sure you never line through someone's signature line. You only line through in your notarial block. You only initial. Your notarial block is your playground. What you do there is your business. The signature line belongs to the signer and the person who created the document. The notary does not get to decide that. And I'm not saying I fight with notaries because I'm always kind to them, but I even as soon as this week, I've had notaries tell me, well, that's how I see it. They're not there. I have to line through it. And I'm like, but that's not how the lender, the underwriters, the title office, and everyone else sees it. So I wanted to bring this to our episode because it is something that I consider very important information that everyone needs to know. And I hope you guys get some benefit out of that.
Ronnie, this is Carol. Can I interject something as well?
Sure, yes.
Because I go through this with my students. One of the things that they should be aware of is when they are the recipient, when they are the second signer, and they see that the notarial certificates have not been lined through as they should be, they need to call title or lender right away, whoever has assigned them, and let them know that that's the situation. You can't call the other notary and direct them. They won't be happy about that, but you need to let title know right away, because this could delay a funding, which could be disastrous for the borrowers.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for reminding me that. I know when we met the other day that we both agreed on that. And I was so passionate about getting this information up that I didn't remember that factor, but I'm so glad that you did. It is one of the, we have notaries who called us. We actually had a signing recently where she received the documents. We get them a lot where the notary here receives them, because our notaries in Arizona, they're all over Notary Stars. They're all over, because we give them so many signings, and our notaries know to call and pick up the phone if something's wrong from the first leg of the signing. It can save a funding. That's the thing, is when you become the hero, when you report it. I know notaries who say, well, that's not my job. That's not, I did my portion. And to reiterate what you're saying, when you can look at yourself on the second leg as, I'm either going to save this signing or I'm going to let it be a disaster. And I have to be when I first started doing notaries, if I saw something from another notary, I thought, well, that's not my place. It can be a little uncomfortable to call someone and say, hey, I'm doing this. I know I'm doing it right, but the first notary didn't, because you're tattletelling in some of our minds. You know, I mean, we can be anywhere from 40 to 80, but we all went through kindergarten. It can be a little, you know, I don't want to, that's not my place. But at the same time, the people that are receiving that file from you will be very thankful for letting them know that something could be wrong with the file.
So Ronnie, you've got a couple of questions in the chat window, and you've got a raised hand for P and B McCallie. They've had their hands raised for a little bit here. So if you would like to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Sure. This is Beth from P&B Notary. Ronnie, I had a question when you showed that last form where you had to fill in the bottom. So is that's obviously when you're doing a jurat or an acknowledgement, and then and there's no notarial writing, so you go to the next page and attach your own, correct?
So in this particular instance, the first notary has used the notarial language.
Okay.
Sometimes they will come with 2 stamps, 1 for each signer. Very uncommon, because most of the documents are auto-generated. If the notarial block has already been used by another notary, which it should have been in this instance, you would have to attach your own certificate.
And do your certificates, what you have at the bottom, is that something you should always have on your notarial certificates? Because in California, obviously, if it's doesn't have a square around it, we can't use it. So we always, most of the time, have to attach our own. Should that always be on the bottom, that blank portion?
As a California notary, previous to Arizona, they sell them at the NNA. They have the notarial certificates. In Arizona, we just have to have that language at the top. I put that on this document and use it. In California, you have to be very careful what you use. I'm not going to advise you, because I've not been a California notary for about 4 years now. So I just renewed a 4-year term in Arizona, so I'm in my 2nd term here.
Okay.
In California, you know, I'm still familiar with the processes there, but I know that their certificates, because I received them for California signings back from notaries. And if we actually see them come through unlimited ink without the optional information, we will call it a notary error and send it back to the notary with the same explanation that I gave you, that it needs to be filled in. So I know that these certificates are made there by the NNA with the optional information on there. It's just that a lot of the notaries don't fill it out, because it's not a law that you have to. But my company, I make it to where the notary has to fill it out, because I'm scared for the notary if they don't.
So even if it's not the second signer, even if you're just, because most of the time we have to attach our own. So so in other words, we should go to the NNA, buy that pad, because it has that bottom portion on it. Because when we do the attachment, we would have to write what it's attached to, like attached to
You
one
should
page.
never send a notarial certificate anywhere unless it states what it's attached to.
Okay, so we'll order these then, is what you're saying then.
I believe that you should. If you don't have them, I believe that you should, in my heart of hearts.
Okay.
And Ronnie, this is Carol. I just want to remind any Notary to Pro graduates that they do have them in the library with that attachment. And you should never send out a separate acknowledgement without that verbiage on it.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate it.
And there's one other comment in the chat here that I wanted to address really quickly. There are full acknowledgement rubber stamps. So if you're wanting to save some time and not attaching a loose certificate of your own, if you have a stamp that's compliant with your state, you can use that as your notarial certificate, stamp it on, if you've got enough room on that same page, stamp it on the document, fill out your venue and all of the information that's contained. That way, both notarizations are on the same page. I particularly like that hack. Okay, couple more messages here. Let me see what we got. We had another question for Roger Rill. Can we swing back to him for just a minute. What does it say? Roger,
For those
as a
please like only were brave enough to see it, if only were brave enough to be it. Annabelle Munoz, ABC7 I.
okay, so we got to mute her. I don't know what that was. You have one notification in here, Roger, and we didn't get to it when you were speaking. She just wants to know, how does an older notary get business as a new older notary?
Well, pretty much the way any notary does, but you can, first of all, having a business name and a website will markedly improve your credibility, particularly for GNW in your community. Other than that, you can, there's Angie's List, they're getting reviews on Yelp, some of the various consumer sites. When you do a business name, particularly if you're going to focus on general notary work, it's a good idea to have the word notary in your business name. That will greatly help with keyword searches. A lot of people, when they're searching for a notary, they'll just Google or they'll put on their phone, find a notary near me. And that keyword will take you to all the notaries that are in that particular area. But just general Google Business is an excellent resource to have profiles on some of the major primary notary search sites, Notary Rotary, Notary Cafe, 123 Notary. The important thing on those sites is to have a well-written, professional-looking profile. I can't tell you how many people I see that post, they spend the money to buy a spot on the site and then they don't do a profile, or it's got grammatical or spelling errors. The worst first impression you can make, who's going to want to call this person if they can't even spell? I don't want to do my notarization. But there's all kinds of ways. There's local things, local slow ads in local papers. There's notary specific papers in your community. Leave business cards everywhere, obviously. But try this experiment. Just go on your phone and Google notary near me and see which of your competitors come up. Your goal is to be one of those businesses. So how do you do that? Just like they did. So it's just keep plugging away, and the more hits you get, the more people will find you, and your SEO will increase. But like I say, having a website that shows your availability, the areas you cover, the types of documents you will help with, all those things will help you get business.
Perfect.
There's,
Mr. Roger, if you don't mind me adding in onto that. So one of the things that I'm very proud of is the SEO that we do at Notary Stars with our directory. And one of the things that I tell notaries, we have videos in our training section on how to do those things. But like you said, and I want to explain to people who don't do SEO, because the reason I got into SEO was 10 years ago. I kept wondering how the lady down the street that owned the notary business was taking 60% of what I own to get me to go out and do signings in Los Angeles. And I would run all over town for her. And back in this day, they didn't have Square and Zelle, and we didn't have smartphones back then. I had to mail her a check from everything I collected for cash for the week. And if I didn't mail her what it was owed, I wasn't working. And so I sat down over Christmas break and I really learned all of those things about SEO. And there's sites like you mentioned, Google My Business, Yelp. And I tell notaries that you want to put the word Notary Public in your listing profile. At Notary Stars, when you start a listing, we actually put it in there for you. So it will say your name, Notary Public, or if you put in a company name, it will say Notary Business, so that you're getting SEO'd properly. But the sites that you list on like Yelp, Google, they don't care. They're general. So you have to actually put in the word notary, and you never know what people are doing. And we at Notary Stars, we're pretty aggressive with getting people to fill out their profile. Number one, your profile won't show if you don't fill it out. And number two, we will call you and hound you, and we make you come to a live onboarding call once a week once you sign up. But I in the beginning of starting Notary Stars, it was like pulling teeth. People would sign up and they would 3 months later, they already paid $25 a month for training and everything, but they wouldn't put their phone number in. They pay for a click to call if it comes off the internet. They didn't put in their phone number. They didn't put in their proper email address. I have notaries write me once a week, you know, and it's cute, but they're like, oh, I put in my personal email and I haven't been getting the emails. You have to fill those profiles out impeccably. Every profile you do, and it gets tedious for us. I know, because I manage a lot of profiles now, but I also have to fill out profiles as a notary myself, because just because I teach and do, I still go out to do signings because it's a rule at Unlimited Ink that you still must do signings in order to work here. And all the profiles that I have to fill out, it is tedious. And sometimes I'm like, well, they don't give me enough business. But that one person that comes through, you never know, could be the one that keeps calling. And you have to look at every profile when you're filling them out, like you might be missing future business because they just use you one time and they're like, great, it was okay, but every listing you have is your resume. So you're filling out hundreds of resumes to be with these companies and you want to fill it out impeccably. So I just wanted to throw in on what you were saying because I agree 1000%.
This is Carol. I'd like to interject something. It's kind of a peeve of mine. So many times we get emails from our students and other people, and they don't put their phone numbers. They'll ask us to get back to them, but no phone numbers. If they're doing that with the companies that they're applying for, they're putting themselves out of business. So just remember, always add your phone number. Just put it as a part of your signature.
And another thing to add in on that, you should put it in on your signature on your mobile device and your desktop device, because if you're using Gmail and I believe Yahoo and certain ones, you have a different signature line for your app versus your actual email address. So you have to have two signature lines. A lot of times, you may not want people to know that you're sending it by your mobile device. It used to be a thing. I actually removed that part that said sent via mobile or sent via iPhone and changed it to what I want it to say. But I love that too, because I can't stand when I get an email and I can't just click to call them right back. I have to go look up all their information. And I know I shouldn't say that because I'm a customer service guy, but it's true. You save people time, you'll get a faster response.
A quick comment, make sure your phone doesn't have a block on it. Poor Carol tried to call me and my phone had a private number blocker on it and she couldn't get through to me. I had to have it specially turned off because I had it turned on at the cell phone company.
I'm sorry, but I get so much spam and stuff on my phone. I had to put a block on it.
It's okay, you're good.
All right, guys. We are running just a little bit long here. There's two more topics that we at least want to touch on and then have some time for some general questions from you. Ronnie, was there more that you wanted to talk about on a non-borrowing spouse?
The only thing that I can add for non-borrowing spouses, and I have a video on Notary Stars, and I thought about pulling up the documents. The thing for non-borrowing spouses is that's the second one. I'd love to bring it to the next episode as well with additional topic, but I really wanted to focus on the split signing tonight. For non-borrowing spouses, I see this often too. It really scares notaries, even experienced notaries, when they don't see a signature line for a non-borrowing spouse. And I have seen notaries who add signature lines to a note because the wife is sitting at the table because she's on certain documents. This is not a good thing. If you have to know how to do a non-borrowing spouse document, they only sign the documents that their name is listed on. They're only notarized on documents that their name is listed on. When you have, you should always look at the 1003. That will tell you who is on the loan, because they don't do a loan application for a person that is not on the loan. The note is your second compass. So you can look at the signature lines of the note and see, are there two signers or one signer or four signers? Because whoever's on the bill, there is only one note, one bill, and everyone will sign that bill. So you should use that as your compass, those two documents. And a deed of trust can have, two signers or one signer, but the note will have who's responsible for the bill. So you just want to be careful and don't ever add signature lines to documents For those of you that are Notary Stars, you know you can call us from the table before the signing, after the signing. We're here for you. But when you come into a situation, when you're prepping your documents before you walk out the door, take a look at the note and the deed. Take all of everything that we train about those two documents, but look and see who's on the deed. That doesn't make them borrowers. That makes them having interest in the home. Then take a look at the note. Are both people on the note, or are both people not on the note? Look at the 1003 as a compass. Those three documents, what you'll know who needs to be signing what. If you see that only one person's on the loan application, but two people are on the deed, or if you see two people are on the note, the deed, but only one person on the note, you know you immediately have a non-borrowing spouse situation. And a lot of the times it can be confusing because these documents are auto-generated. A lot of times they come out with the word borrower under the signature line. So as you start your signing, you see borrower and borrower, or, you know, we don't have the word cosigner. They kind of really did away with that with most companies. The person might have borrower under their signature line and is in their names printed there. But when it comes down to it, you should never add someone's name to a document ever. Even if you think in your heart of hearts their name should be there, you call the assigning party and you get a written authorization to have someone's name printed under the signature line and sign above it. You will never go wrong, but if you add someone's name to a document, you can derail an entire loan.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you.
Ronnie, can I go ahead and inject here as well?
Sure.
Okay. The only time that I might add something as far as the signature line is concerned would be like the compliance agreement or the correction agreement. Because if the non-borrowing spouse is nowhere on the multiple versions that are going to be included in the package, you still have to have permission to be able to contact the non-borrowing spouse if they are the ones that the corrections are needed from.
That's a really good point. And I don't even have to, I've been looking around, but I know your voice because I talk to you all the time. That's Eden Chase from Seattle, who teaches with us and also is a power notary at Unlimited Ink in Seattle. So could you just reiterate that? And would you mind typing that into the chat after you reiterate it one more time? For the compliance agreement and the correction agreement, those are the two documents that you suggest?
Yes. And I actually did put it in the notes or the chat as well. So every once in a while, I'll have a package where I will have multiple versions of a correction agreement, compliance agreement, whatever. And I do not see the spouse on that document on any of them. And so typically what I'll do is there is sometimes one that will have the extra line already there. And so that's usually the one that I will include their name to be added on to. If none of them have the space available and I need at least one that they are complying to it, I will typically add it to the one that I'm notarizing, simply because I'm witnessing that they are in fact agreeing to comply with any kind of correction request.
Okay, I will respect what you say, E, because I know that you have a background. You can also explain your background if you want to, why you make those kinds of decisions. With those documents, I don't believe that there would be anything to stop funding. The reason that we're so adamant about it at Notary Stars and Unlimited Ink is because if you added someone's name to the wrong document, you know, you might add it to a correction agreement or a compliance agreement and that not stop a funding. But if you make the wrong decision on a note, it's done. It's a re-sign. And, you know, especially on a purchase file, and I'll go even further with this. We had a situation this week, and this is something new to me. I've been doing this for over a decade, and this is brand new to me. We had a situation where the notary added someone to the note, and it was brand new signers. But if they did not purchase their house by 5 p.m. that afternoon, they had to pay $30,000 more for that house. It was in the contract, the purchase contract, that if they did not close on that day, the next day they owed $30,000 more if they wanted the house. we got the documents back at 2 p.m. and you can only record up until about 4:15. So you better believe there was burning rubber and fire on the roads that day to get it done, to get it recorded. And so that all came from someone adding someone who should not be on the note to the note. And so, you know, again, we use our experiences. Those two documents, I don't believe would cause a problem, but I don't want to get into the business of guiding notaries to add signature lines. I'd rather tell them not to add signature lines, because when it comes down to being the wrong document, that's where it can get confusing. If you are of experience level like Edie and have, you know, as much experience and have worked in, you know, the industry in different sectors before, you might be able to make those decisions, but not if you don't know. If you're a notary and your job, you know, is to get the document signed correctly, don't make executive decisions.
This is Carol. I'd like to interject something if I may.
Absolutely.
One of the things that makes it very easy, and I'm teaching my students this, is you have to let those documents, everything that you do, that directs what you're going to be doing. Don't second guess. If you'll just let the documents direct you as to what needs to be done, then you'll be good. There's too much overthinking, people, and that's exactly what happens when they make those kinds of mistakes. They're not letting the document tell them what to do.
Agreed.
Yeah, and I will agree with that as well. I wait until I get through the entire package before I might make that executive decision as far as adding them to the compliance agreement. But the thing that you're always going to remember is the borrower is always going to be on the note. It's not the non-borrower, because the borrower is the one that is responsible for making those payments. But the non-borrower is probably going to be on the deed because, you know, of ownership requirements for each state. But yeah, make sure that you go through the entire package before you make any sort of decision. And if you are uncomfortable making that decision, make that phone call to Unlimited Inc. or to Notary Stars. They are there for a reason.
All righty. Thank you, Edie. Our final topic goes back to Miss Carol Ray. Carol, you wanted to talk about two mini topics. Number 10 envelopes, funny topic, and the Virginia letter regarding notarizing a note.
Yeah, first of all, let me ask, I know there's one person from Virginia. How many of you are there? Is there more than one?
Type a 1 in the window, in the chat window, if you're from Virginia.
Okay, well, I'll just tell, even if it's just for this one. Oh, somebody's moving there. Okay, well, just very quickly, I'll give you my email address. If you're in Virginia, there is some companies that have notaries notarizing a note. It is against the law in Virginia to notarize the note. There is a letter that I have, it explains what it is. It's from the government, and it's something that you can attach to the documents when you do not notarize the note, even though it says it's required by the lender. So if you'd like to have that sent to you, just shoot me an email to notarytopro@gmail.com, and I'll send that to you. That's number one. Number two, in your journals, which everybody should have, even if your state does not require it, especially at our age, our memory is not as good as it was when we were 20. And your journal is your memory. If you ever called into court or have a situation, that journal is everything. So what I suggest is taking a number 10 envelope, and on the cover, the back cover of your journals, staple it or tape it, whatever you want to do, and use that envelope to save things such as if you do credible witnesses and you do a credible witness affidavit, which is only for your records, put it in the envelope, mark the date on it. That's that is identification. If you ever are required to have anything, you've got all the information about credible witnesses. If you've used some form of identification in addition to, say, a federal or California ID, but you need to show somehow in court that you were absolutely certain that this person was who they say they are, save that documentation, put it in that envelope. There's all kinds of things that you can do, just notes, special notes, anything that comes up that's unusual that you want to save, that you might be going back to at some point in time, put it in the envelope. It's valuable if you ever have to go back to look at something for proof or whatever. And that's pretty much all I had.
Perfect. And that kind of is a really good segue because you're talking about a journal. So Carol, what's our giveaway?
We're going to give away 2 of the journals, the Integrity. Let me get the name of it exactly. It was one of our graduates that created it, and it is fantastic. It's called the Integrity Notary Journal. It's good for all states except I think Arizona, as well as California, we can't use it. But Clyde is coming up with a California and Arizona journal, which is going to be great. But this is the best journal I have ever seen. And for those of you who don't win it, it's on Amazon, very well priced. And we have chosen 2 numbers. So what I'd like for you all to do is put a number between 1 and 50 in the chat, and we'll see what we come up with.
Okay, give it a minute here. Whoa, they're all flying in. It's a little too fast. Let me go back and look at this. Okay, we have 1 winner, Miss Sandy Harris. Woohoo, Sandy! You just won Clyde's journal. Carol, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I try to be respectful.
So we're actually going to do 2 journals. So Sandy Harris is 1 winner. Let me find the other one. Give me just a minute here. And the second winner is Calvin. Calvin, you're going to have to give us your last name, hon.
Hi there, my last name's Gonzalez.
Calvin Gonzalez and Sandy Harris. You are the
Thank you
lucky
so much.
winners.
Now, if you guys are not Notary to Pro students or graduates, you'll need us, we'll need to get your information so you can send that to notarytopro@gmail. Just give us your address and telephone number if you will.
And that's
congratulations.
number 2 pro, not the word 2, the number
Right.
2.
Right, number 2.
Okay, Miss Phyllis Traylor, Ronnie Mickle, Carol Ray, thank you all for being here. We really, really have enjoyed all of your information that you presented today. I only have one last thought for all of you. The best athletes in the world get the most intensive training and coaching. They don't say, I got coached in high school. I don't need a pro coach to tell me how to earn my millions. They understand that it always makes sense to up their game. And they do that by continual coaching and training. That's what I'm going to express to each and every one of you. Even if you're as old as Roger Rill, you still need to keep your training up and invest in yourself and your business. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Have a good evening, guys.
Ditto.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.